You know the vibes. Welcome back to the Hoop Genius podcast, brought to you by not NBA 2K24 anymore. Now it's NBA 2K25. I hope you guys are ready for a whole new season. And to celebrate, we got the band back together. Look who's back. The one, the only Mr. BJ Armstrong. The people have been missing you. The people have been calling out, where's B? I said, he's in Vegas. Leave that man alone. Let him enjoy.
I've been out. I've been missing you guys. I've been watching. The show has been hot, hot takes. Come on, man. Been hot,
No. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, we've been missing you. That's all.
I've been missing you all. Been missing the people, but I'm back.
Give us the update. What do we need to know from Vegas? What's the big takeaways from everything that you saw? What's the key takeaways you got from Las Vegas?
Wow, it's so many takeaways. First of all, before Vegas, I was in Salt Lake City. They have a California Summer League now, which are in Golden State and Sacramento. Then I was in the Summer League that was in in Salt Lake City. And then I went from Salt Lake City to Las Vegas. The big takeaway, Mo, is that, player development is a real thing. I mean, every team was there. You saw so many young players, first, second, third year players. Actually, there was a player that I simply love. Kevin Knox was there. Was there playing with Golden State, and free agency was going on during this, this entire time. So between free agency and summer league and owners and NBA and all of the things that were going on, it was just great. I was just around the NBA family. We couldn't get Scott out there. That was the only person that was not out there. Scott was the only person, Mo, in the United States that wasn't there. He was the only person. He was with the people though, so he had a more important role. But other than that, it was great. The development. I saw all the young players. I saw every player that was there. The first pick, second pick, every player, and it was good. So you got a chance to see these players on display, and I'm really encouraged, and I'm really looking forward to the season, and it was terrific.
I love to hear
it. Mo, I'm going to add a little something to what BJ is talking about, because I watched, obviously, a lot of the Summer League and a lot of the different teams, and there was a narrative going into this draft just about how, quote-unquote, weak this draft was going to be. But as you start... That's a lot of noise until you start watching these guys play. And again, granted, it's summer league play. All right. Granted, it's summer league play. But I saw some good players.
Yes.
A guy that a lot of people were talking about, BJ saw him, this Reed Shepherd, who went number 3 to Houston, performed very well. And I keenly also watched the Utah Jazz, where Mr. Armstrong's client was one of 3 rookies. He obviously represents Isaiah Collier. Cody Williams was their lottery pick, and Kyle Filipowski was their second-round pick. And if you're a Utah Jazz fan, you got to feel pretty good about the infusion of young talent coming in there, because you've got a wing who's versatile with Cody Williams. You've got a true point guard who has an NBA-ready body and speed and ability to get in the paint already in Isaiah Collier. And you got a big who can play the 4 position, and Filipowski competes, plays hard. So like what I saw from him as well. But there are a number of other performers. I know we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about that, but those few stuck out to me. And we'll see what they do when the real thing starts come the fall. So when that season starts in October. So, but I think there's going to be some good young players that ultimately surface from this draft.
I'm looking forward to the new NBA season, but before that, we've got the Olympics to get through. And the Olympics are getting underway in August, but before that, we've got some warm-up games. We saw the USA team over in Abu Dhabi recently playing against Serbia. They played a couple games over there. And then on Saturday night, I was fortunate enough to see Team USA in London, in my hometown. They came over to town to take on South Sudan in what turned out to be a very interesting matchup. Team USA won the game by just 1 point. And I'll say this, they shouldn't have won that game. There was a foul on South Sudan on the final possession that the refs didn't call. That should have been a loss for Team USA. Just before we dive into the game, how worried are you guys about Team USA? Because a lot of people at the game last night, they were saying, oh, they weren't playing properly. They were taking it easy. I don't know about all that. Are the alarm bells ringing over there in the States?
Well,
Scott, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first on it. Look, I think every time that the U.S. goes and plays in the Olympics, there's always a little bit of cautious optimism over, especially the last, let's say, 2 or 3 Olympics, because of the growth of the game from a global perspective, and you have all of these, young star players from over in European countries now that have come over here and become MVP levels. We talked about it on one of the shows, Mo. We talked about even Luka hasn't become an MVP yet, but he's plays on that level. Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid is playing now with the U.S. team, but Giannis Antetokounmpo. So what you have now is that all these teams internationally across the globe, they're not as intimidated by the U.S. anymore, but they also know it's a big time deal to beat this team. So you're going to get their very best effort. And when I watched this game yesterday, the South Sudan team, those guys were ready to play. They competed. They were athletic. They got up and down that floor, especially in the first half, that caused problems for the U.S. team. Now, of course, we know the U.S. team hasn't been together that long, but they're going to have to quickly figure out their rotations and who's going to play best together at various times of the game, because that won't be the only scare that they have. And I know that game, quote unquote, doesn't count yesterday, but now it gets real after the last. They have one more in London, right, Mo? Don't they have one more against Germany?
They got Germany on Monday night.
Yeah. And so after that one, now everything counts. And what historically has been, what I believe is that a game like this becomes a wake-up call for all the USA players as well as the coaching staff, because coaching plays a big role when you're putting all this together. And Steve Kerr, reading his comments, took a lot of the responsibility for the closeness of that game yesterday, saying he didn't have the team prepared the way it needed to be. And just like the players, there will be no more mulligans once you get into Olympic competition. So looking forward to, I believe they'll be better than what they were, but I do think there's going to be some close games throughout this Olympic run.
Mr. Armstrong, what's your take?
Well, I just happened to be heading to Vegas the night after they played Canada in Las Vegas. So I kind of got there were a lot of coaches and NBA people who actually attended the game. And I, just kind of listening at dinner and certain functions I was attending during my Las Vegas stay, there's definite concern. There's concern within the USA basketball, because these other teams, we and I say other teams, these other countries, we've lost our intimidation. There's no more intimidation with they are playing USA basketball. That's done. We may have the best team, and I want to preface that. I think we still have the best team, 1 through 12 or whatever the roster may be. However, now the best individual player now is probably on the other teams. Right? You can argue Shea Alexander, you can argue Jokic, you can argue Giannis. You could argue the best individual player is on the other team. And as we know, guys, it's a different game. It's a shorter game. Yes. And you can see by what we saw by the results of this last game with USA basketball in Sudan, anything is possible during the course of these games. So are there concerns? Yes. Is this a wake-up call? Yes. And hopefully for the USA basketball, they can take this and turn it into a positive, because you got to be ready to play. We just saw it in the WNBA All-Star game.
Yes.
Okay. So we know that when you are playing in a different game, in a different setting, anything is possible. But I want to say this. The rest of the world, they caught up. And in some ways now, Scotty, the way they play, because, I just got done watching Summer League basketball. When you start playing against this 5-out stuff that we're doing here in America, and then the other, by the way, our guy Royal Ivy.
Yes,
the
coach. Yes,
and I want to give a shout out to Luol Deng.
Yes,
the OG.
Hey, Royal Ivy, Coach Ivy had those guys playing great. They were organized. They weren't intimidated. They were defending, and they were playing at a pace that you can see the USA basketball is going to have a problem.
Yes,
when you start playing at that pace versus those level of athletes. I don't care what you say. You could see the deficiencies within your own team. So give those guys credit. USA basketball, I think they can recover? Yes, but it's not going to be easy. This is not going to be easy because the players are going to get better. They're going to get better as they go through this tournament. And I don't know how these guys are going to respond having to play because, listen, Coach Kerr kind of shortened his bench a little bit.
Yeah.
And he was doing this this is what these are
the friendly games. The friendly games. Exactly.
So, once they really count, they're really going to shorten them. And these guys aren't like spring chickens. Okay. LeBron is 39, 40. Steph Curry is mid-30s. And you're going to ask these guys to play a lot of minutes and heavy minutes. And I don't know how Joel's body is going to respond. Right. I just don't know.
Right.
So it's going to be fascinating. I'm really excited for this. But definitely, I think the USA, this is not going to be an easy road. I don't think it's going to be like it has been in the past where they're just going to kind of show up and beat teams by 20. This is going to be tough. And I think this is anyone's game, especially when you start playing against Victor and Jokic and Giannis and Shea and all these guys. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a fascinating tournament, and I'm looking forward to it.
That French team and that French team is playing at home too. You mentioned Victor, those guys. And they're playing at home, and they've got a number of NBA guys on that roster. So you can only imagine the type of atmosphere that's going to be if they have to face off.
And they might get a home whistle. They might get a home whistle.
Well, the USA got a home whistle last night. South Sudan are ranked 33rd in the world according to FIBA, the lowest of all 12 teams that will be competing in the Olympics for basketball. The USA obviously is ranked number 1. And it was a very tough game for the USA to win against South Sudan. However, for the Tokyo Olympics, for example, the USA lost 2 exhibition games, and I think they even lost their first game against France before they got together.
Oh, hold on.
For the gold.
Well, time out. You can't tell me that's the 33rd team, and you can't tell me that.
No, I'm not telling you that. The FIBA World Rankings is telling
me we got to get on the ranking. How do we get on those rankings? That can't be.
The only reason why they can be down that low is just because they're a newer country and this is their first time into the Olympics.
Yeah. South Sudan's only existed.
That's the only reason.
2011.
Exactly.
And 5 years ago, Luol
that's
Deng
the only reason.
But
they're not watching that roster.
No. This is what I said to BJ on the phone after the game last night. I said to him, it's only a matter of time before South Sudan is a powerhouse in world basketball. Because if you look at the talents that they have, they were playing that game without 2 of their guys who would play in the NBA, who aren't even eligible for the Thonmaker and Bol, who weren't even eligible to play for them this time around. So they're doing all of that without 2 of their key guys in their squad that could even be a bigger talent bonus.
How did you like the young kid that's going to Duke? Because I watched him at I know they're bringing him off the bench, and he's a young player. But
come on,
you got to
come on. Is that how you pronounce it?
Malouch, I believe.
He had 7 points, 3 rebounds, and he had a nice block. He had a nice block on Anthony Davis, I think.
But you got to figure he's going to be a building block for that.
Yep. He's going to be a key part of the team. I met with the team on Friday night, the night before the game.
Okay.
I met with the squad, the South Sudan squad, and the energy around that team is contagious, right? They play with so much joy and so much passion for the game. And what I loved about it was that they played their style of basketball. is they wanted to get
Right.
out and run. They wanted to force the USA into turnovers. They wanted to generate steals and blocks and deflections and get out there and play their style of basketball. That's exactly what they did. And that credit goes to, of course, Luol, who's made all these changes in the program, and of course, Royal Ivy, the coach, who's not even being paid to coach his team. He's just doing it for the head coaching reps. I think Luol met him
great experience
when they were in high school in New Jersey, and look at what he's doing on the world stage. If you want to know more about the South Sudan team, there's this magazine called Overseas Magazine, which has a cover profile on South Sudan basketball. Also within this magazine, you can find a nice article by yours truly about the state of British basketball right now.
Oh, wow. Wow. Look at you.
It's
Mo.
Pretty insane to me that South Sudan has only existed as a country for 13 years. They've only really had this basketball program for the last 5 years. And yet they're doing all of this. Meanwhile, in the UK, where you have every advantage in the world, they can't even get a team together to compete at the Olympics. And they're playing games right now against random teams and getting absolutely worked. And that's no disrespect to the players on that team. It's to do with the hierarchy of basketball and the development of it in this country. But that's a whole another conversation. But I love what South Sudan's doing. The South Sudanese community who live in London all came out to support them. You know, during the game, you're hearing louder chants for SSD, South Sudan, than you were for the USA. Up until the very end, when the USA won the game, the crowd was giving more love to South Sudan. And even after the game, you know, outside the arena, there's like, they're partying just outside the arena, singing, dancing, making noise. So the love for this team is special, and what they're doing is simply amazing. I'm a huge fan of what they've got going on, and basketball wise as well. This is such a young team in terms of how long they've been together. They only meet for a few weeks every year, and to play with the synergy in which they played all together. And they've got a couple guys like Wenyan Gabriel's on the team, TJ Thor is on the team, a couple of NBA guys. And you would think in a lot of circumstances, the NBA guys would try and take over. But no, they're playing the right way. They're playing connected. They're playing team basketball. And it was really amazing to see in comparison to what Team USA were doing to start the game, which was horrific basketball. I mean, they took an early lead early on in the first few minutes. And then the game kind of slowed down when USA were on offense. They were running a lot of stuff of kind of trying to force feed Embiid on the post or in the paint rather to try and get their offense going from there. And I just don't think that Joel Embiid for this matchup anyway has the necessary athleticism and speed to be on the court and compete, because the game really turned around when in the second half, USA opted to start the half with Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis in a double big lineup out there along with Tatum, Edwards, and Derek White, so that they had that defensive versatility and they had those quicker athletes out there on the court. That's when the game really turned around. But I have the conspiracy of thinking, do you think Joel Embiid said to USA Basketball that if he commits to playing for them instead of France or instead of Cameroon, that he has to be the starting center? Because there's no way you can look at how he's played so far throughout the other games they've played in and think he's deserving of that starting spot on the team.
Great question, Mo. Don't know. I don't have any insight as to whether or not that was the case. What I will say is that when you have a player like Joel Embiid, who for his entire NBA career, everything has been built around him. Joel Embiid has never really had to adjust if you've watched his career in Philadelphia. So to ask him to come off the bench, and I get what you're saying, you know, it slows them down. You know, you even watch them, especially defensively, you know, a lot of teams are going to be putting him in a lot of screening actions and see if he's going to be able to switch, and you know, he's going to struggle to guard people on the perimeter. And that's going to be difficult for him. But with Joel, if you bring him off the bench, you know, a lot of times when teams go to their bench, they like to increase the pace of play. Well, Joel's not going to do that for you. You know, again, Joel has always been, and you have to know that in putting this team together, you're going to have to play through him when he's out on the court if you're going to maximize what he does. Because again, all the other parts of the game really don't work to his favor in terms of getting up and down, playing a lot of fast break basketball, switching defensively, you know, playing this 5-out type of game. That's not Joel Embiid. So again, we said at the beginning that this is incumbent upon the coaches. This is why the coaching staff was selected. They've got to figure that out and how they're going to utilize him. But I definitely can see them not closing a lot of games with him, because what you don't want, if you don't start him and then his minutes get severely cut and he's not closing games, does he become disengaged? And that's what I would be concerned about that.
PJ, what are your thoughts on Embiid so far for Team USA?
Well, I think it's going to come down to the following. And if you're going to have Joel Embiid on the team, which I think he is, without question, his talent is needed, they're going to need bigger players, especially in international play. The reason being is, as a person who watches the international game quite frequently, it's a more physical game. And certainly you're going to need to be able to meet that level of physicality. However, the bigger concern that I see, guys, is the style of play. That if you're going to have Joel Embiid, well, take advantage of Joel Embiid. It reminds me of Showtime. When you think of Showtime, you don't think of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the sky hook. You think of Magic Johnson running around, they're throwing no-look passes, they're having fun, they're getting up and down. But there was a rule. When Kareem crossed half court, no one shot the basketball. They took advantage of the big fella in the post, and they made sure that every possession that he was in position, that he was featured. Now, if you're asking me, the bigger concern is, are they going to commit to style of play, which is 5 out, or are they going to commit to taking advantage of the individual player and their talents of why they're on the team? You don't get Joel Embiid to shoot threes.
No, but this is what I'm saying. Like, in the first half of the game, they were going to him in the paint. And it's just dragging the pace of the game down slower.
Well, again, I think that's why Steve Kerr said that falls on me. It is my job to put the players in position to succeed. You don't have to commit to playing for that way for 40 minutes, but you got to figure out, as you know, Mo, you know my term that I like to use. You got to figure out the balance, the blended style of play that's going to allow you to take advantage. Now, the one thing that was impressive about me with South Sudan is their depth. They were just coming in with waves of guys. So we got to figure out our substitution patterns. We got to figure out combinations. But more importantly, you got to figure out how to play during certain stretches during the course of the game to take advantage of it. So that, to me, falls on the coaches. The players got to figure out how to play unselfishly, as Scott likes to play. Our job, this is a very unselfish game played by selfish players, and that's our job to unselfish them. So they have to figure that out. That was exposed, and they were very fortunate to win that game. However, this isn't a talent issue. Now they just have to figure out the combinations and how to utilize it, and utilize it according to matchups, players, and how guys are playing during the course of that game.
The USA got to the line extraordinary amount. They had 28 free throws compared to just 13 for Sudan last night. And I spoke earlier about the final call or no call that could have won Sudan the game. So it's interesting to me that the USA were 44-point favorites entering the matchup and ended up winning by just 1. And we'll see. I'm expecting them to come out with a statement win against Germany. They're favored by like 15 points. I'm expecting them to have to come and blow out Germany just to restore that confidence. But my question to you guys is, if you put on your coaching hat, what would be your starting 5 if you were coaching this USA team?
Yes. Well, that's an interesting question, and a big question for this team. Me, I am partial to having as many two-way guys out there as you can. So at the guard positions, and I know this, again, it's no disrespect to Steph Curry, but I would be starting your guy from the Celtics, Drew Holiday, and Anthony Edwards as my guards. And I would have, you got LeBron. You got to start Embiid since you got him in there. You brought him in there, and then you got to have a 4 who can space the floor, So maybe you put Jason Tatum, so you have Jason Tatum and LeBron and
Or KD, because KD didn't play.
KD, I'm sorry, KD hasn't played. KD would be my other one.
What about you, BJ?
KD would be my one. So KD, LeBron, and Joel would be my front line, and then I have Anthony and Jrue Holiday as my starting backcourt.
Well, I'm not so big on who's starting, because when you start playing in these all-star events, I'm about figuring out who's going to finish the game. I have a problem right now on who is going to finish the game for me.
Okay.
Now, when I'm watching the team, right now, proven what I know, Kevin Durant is elite as far as an offense and defensive player in international play. Okay. I don't know if that's the play call, the isolation for LeBron James at the end of the game. Okay. I'm looking at the big picture. What happened there happened. I'm looking at Sam. Who's going to finish the game for me? Because when you start looking at the team, I don't think there's a team in the world that can match up with this team man to man, which South Sudan elected to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's just me. I'm just watching. I'm not criticizing. If I'm got to get a stop against USA, it's going to be a jump shot right now, because they are so athletic and so big, strong, and athletic. And LeBron literally got a layup. I mean, that's probably the cardinal sin of any defensive stop that you need, is to let a guy drive to the basket untouched. He wasn't even fouled, right? At the least make him go to the free throw line to make the two free throws. So that was a cardinal sin. Now, Kevin Durant has to be on the floor. Why? Because he's just elite. In my opinion, Anthony Edwards is probably the best talent right now on the team, on both sides of the ball.
He had a tough night. He was 1 from 7 from 3 last night.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah,
I'm right.
Why is he shooting 7 threes with that level of athleticism? Okay. That's what I got to figure out as a coach. All right. Because we have to play a certain way, right? We have to play a certain way. I'm probably going to go Anthony Davis, and I'm going to go Bam. I'm going to put KD at the. I'm going to put KD at the 3. Okay, because I am committed to what I know works in international play. I have to overwhelm the team with speed and quickness.
So who's your 5?
Anthony Davis.
No, the 5 players.
And my 5th is probably be LeBron James.
So LeBron would be your point guard.
LeBron is my point.
Yeah. Oh, so you got
LeBron, Anthony Edwards.
That's the finishing group, and I think that group will finish like that's who finished
right
yesterday. Yeah, but I agree. I just I'm answering more in terms of starting. That's why I put.
And then based on what the other teams are doing, right? I need shooting. Clearly, Steph Curry is there. Clearly, Devin Booker is there. Clearly, the shooters are there. If they want to go big and physical, okay, and then I'm bringing in Joel Embiid. I'm bringing in according to what I need, okay? But if you're just asking me who is the teams that can play the style that I know is necessary, you have to utilize speed and quickness. Now, they don't have that traditional guard, right? They don't have a De'Aaron Fox or somebody who can just push the pace. They don't have guys who can just pick up, with probably the exception of Jrue Holiday, that can play 94 feet on the defensive end.
Well, I'll tell you this. The most underrated player on the team was a massive factor in changing the outcome of last night's game, because he didn't play at all in the first half. But then Derek White comes in the second half, and he comes up with, he doesn't score the basketball, but he has 5 assists, 3 rebounds, and he made a noticeable difference on the defensive end for the USA.
You're going to have that. However, as you go through this, you got to extend 94 feet. See, that's my whole thing with this. You have to play to the other team's weakness. If it's one thing that the American players and teams have an advantage, is to be able to extend that level of athleticism for 94 feet. Half-court offense now, I would argue, that Europe and the rest of the world is probably better than us as far as execution in the half court. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm not really concerned about this next game for America, because Serbia, Canada, Germany are not going to show their hand heading into this tournament. They're not going to show everything to America. Why? Because Canada believes, I firmly believe this. I don't know this. I firmly believe they think they can beat America. Just like I firmly believe Serbia believes they can beat America. Certainly France believes they can beat America. And no one wants to show their hand until they get to the medal rounds or later in this tournament.
Canada,
and that's why, and I'll say this last,
yeah.
And that's why this game with South Sudan was so big, because South Sudan, this was their hand. They had to show to get the respect. Okay. And I believe South Sudan played as if this was the Olympics, and America was like taken back a little bit. Hopefully that's what happened.
Right.
Because South Sudan this was their medal. This was their medal round. They gained a lot of respect.
I don't think they're done yet.
I don't, hopefully they're not. They got a great team, but I think it's going to be tough because this is their first go around. But hopefully they can go and do their thing there. But
and they shot us well from the 3-point line.
From the three. And you can't depend on that.
Depend on that. Yeah. And that's the thing.
But that would be my team. So LeBron, Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant at the 3, Bam at the 4, Anthony Davis at the 5. I want to be big, strong, athletic, and then play.
So that would be your team that you close with, or the team you start.
Start. I think that's my best 5 on both sides of the ball. I can switch. I can play. I can overwhelm. people.
The closeout games, I definitely see Anthony Davis and Bam playing a role in that. And then if you're going to have Kevin up there, then you have to have LeBron on the floor. You got to push him to the 1. Now, the one thing, to your point though, and this is where it can hurt the U.S. a little bit. They really don't have a point guard that plays 94 feet other than Drew Holiday, like you're saying. Anthony Edwards can play 94 feet.
Derek White.
I think he can match up defensively. Yeah, but Derek White didn't give you the offensive.
No, he can't play downhill.
Offensive punch. But see, LeBron, if you're going to ask LeBron, obviously there was a time and point, in LeBron's career, he definitely could play 94 feet.
But you say Derek White doesn't give the offense, but he played 11 minutes and generated 5 assists. LeBron played 23 minutes and led the team with 7 assists. So aside from LeBron, Derek White was the one generating all the offense.
But Mo, those are the stats. I'm not arguing stats.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mo, we got to argue style of play. Derek White cannot organize the game. That's not what he does. He's a contributor. We agree. He is. There are star players and then there are role players. He is a star in his role.
Yeah.
If I'm going to ask Derek White can't do that.
But the style of play when they had him in the game in the second half was far superior to the style of play that they had going on in the first half.
I'm gonna tell you this: coach is gonna have to figure it out, because there's no way when it's all said and done and the medals on the line, Steph Curry's gonna be on the bench.
That's right, Mo. Come on, Mo. We trying to get you, Mo. We trying to get you in the
Anthony
NBA
Edwards,
as an executive.
LeBron, all those. And God bless Derek White.
Great.
But he was a late addition. But part of the reason he's there, he can provide that little spark he provided in a game like that. But in their minds, when they brought him in there, is that, okay, here's a guy who may not play 1, 2, 3 games. And then, let's say.
But so I guess it leads to the bigger question, though, is it's all well and good having these plans and knowing who your best lineup is. But at some point, you can't just coach your predetermined rotations. You have to coach the game that's unfolding right in front of you and pick the players that are best for that particular matchup. Now, I don't think that Derek White is the best guard to have on your team when you're playing against Serbia or Germany, but I think in a matchup with a South Sudan-like team who is in the same group as the USA at the Olympics, I think that particular matchup is favorable to have him on the court. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I see. He played well yesterday, and that's what they did what you said yesterday. They watched the game. They took Halliburton out the rotation and inserted him, Derek White, and it paid off for him. But as we just discussing the plans moving forward, but going into this tournament, you've got to have at least a set rotation that's there that everybody knows, from the starters to the guys coming off to the bench to the guys who are out of the rotation. just so everybody can mentally prepare on how they got to be ready to play these games. And I just don't see going into the Olympic competition. I think Derek White will probably be on the outside of that.
Yeah,
but in a special situation like last night, okay, certain things aren't working. We need another defensive spark. We need an elite role player to come in and help spark us. Then you could see him pivot to Derek White again.
And I don't know this. I'm not as familiar with all of the players. But if South Sudan shoots like that every game, they're going to medal.
Yeah. I mean, they shot what, 42%, 43%?
Scott said it earlier.
They shot 25%.
Scott said it earlier in the broadcast. They were like lights out. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't depend on your ability to shoot like that every game. Now, if they do, hopefully they do, they're going to medal.
If JT Thor was shooting like that, he'd still be with, normally he still would be with the Charlotte Hornets right now.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Well, JT Thor, he was what, 1 and 4. He was 1 and 4.
No, but he had a big one. But that one,
Mario Shayok, that was
6 or 12. And he played at Virginia. I remember him.
He played for Sixers, I think.
Short time in the NBA.
But also, like, what I noticed on some of these 3-pointers that they're hitting, well, like the uncontested ones that they're hitting, is obviously the defensive rules in FIBA style of play are different to the NBA. And it takes a while for an NBA player to acclimatize to these different rules. And when you tell an NBA player, oh, there's no defensive 3 seconds, you can stay in the paint as long as you want. Some of these 3-pointers for Sudan they were coming because Anthony Davis or Joel Embiid or whatever, they were just parked up in the paint because they're like, well, I'm here to block shots. And they're forgetting about the corner shooter and not rotating out. So the other players in the other teams in the Olympics have bigs who are accustomed to this style of play, or a whole team that's accustomed to a FIBA style of play, which may make life easier for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But the difference is Anthony Davis has international experience. So
yes, he does.
I know, and so he is capable of extending out there. Whether he did it consistently or not yesterday, I mean, you were at the game. I watched it on television, but he will be fine in doing that. Who I know won't be fine doing that, even the limited time I watched that yesterday, is Joel Embiid. I mean, because he doesn't do it during the NBA season, and even and like you said, the fact that he can sit in the lane even more internationally, that's going to play to what he wants to do anyway.
And there was a lot of those.
That's going to be the interesting dynamic. What I want to watch going forward is what happens with Joel Embiid and how that whole situation is managed. Both from, him, look, this, I was saying this to BJ, we were having a conversation about this last night. Think about this. This is the first summer that I can recall that Joel Embiid is really being asked to work at this level. Usually Joel Embiid is easing his way into training camp, first part of the regular season, to get in shape. Here we are in July, and what you need from him is NBA level conditioning. And this is not a time of the year that he's
used to being in condition. This is what I was going to say as well. Like in that first half, a lot of the buckets from South Sudan, Embiid was playing in a deep drop, and they could just come off the screen and just pull up for an open jumper. So that's why I'm looking at the scheme and what they're doing in the rotation, and I'm like, well, why are you putting him back in? This is clearly it's not a good matchup for him, and I understand it's a warm-up game and whatnot. But I think just by being a big name doesn't give you the right to be on the court when you're not playing well, or when you're in a matchup that's not suited to you. Like now, if you look at the box score, you think, 5 or 6 from the field. 7 rebounds,
14 points, right?
Cool. But like from watching the game with the eye test, I don't know if this international style is built for him. Like it'll be easier for him when they come up against a team who runs slower bigs, like if you're coming up against a Serbia, for example. But South Sudan, to their credit, they weren't afraid of the States. They came out and played their style of basketball. And, they played against the British team a couple of days before, and that was a close game. So you see that, and you think they're going to get destroyed by the USA. And here they are showing the improvements and showing that they're bringing something different to the table. The only African country represented at the Olympics this year, and they're going to see the USA again because they're in the same group, and that group is looking real interesting now with Serbia, South Sudan, Puerto Rico, and the USA. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it unfolds. So, what are your guys' predictions for the USA versus Germany on Monday night?
Well, I believe the U.S. will figure out a way to win. They will want to play well. They've heard all the noise about the near upset against South Sudan. They know this is the final tune-up before going over to the Olympics. So this is where your leadership comes into play. Not only leadership from your players, but leadership from the coaching staff. So I expect that they'll play better. And no disrespect to Germany. I know Germany is a good team, and that they won the World Cup here this past summer, a summer ago. So, but I think the U.S. will figure out a way how to win this game, play better, and win it in double digits.
What about you, BJ?
I think the USA will bounce back and have a large victory, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, okay, they're back," and this was a good test. South Sudan was a good test for them as they head into the Olympics. So, again, but I don't think Germany is going to show their entire hand either.
No, I agree with that.
So I don't think what does Germany get out? Okay, they beat them in a friendly. Like, what do they get out of this? Like so. I mean, Schroeder and these guys, right? Schroeder is playing, right? Or Schroeder and those guys.
Yes, Schroeder and the Wagner twins.
Yeah. So I don't think they will show
not twins,
their hand.
but the Wagner brothers.
Brothers, yes. Mm-hmm. So I think this will be a good test. Kind of see what America's going to do. I think the most important thing that I'm going to be looking for in this game are their rotations. Who is Steve Kerr going to settle in and say, here are the guys, here are the 8 guys I'm going to trust? Okay. Mm-hmm. And that to me is what I want to see, because he shortened his bench in the South Sudan game, especially in the second half. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be looking for that. I expect them to win big. I expect everything to be, back to usual. They win by 20, 30 points or whatever they're going to do. But I don't think Germany's going to show everything. And I think every country feels that they have a chance. I really do. I think this is the first time that I think that there are multiple countries and multiple teams that feel they have a chance to win gold in the Olympics, especially in basketball.
I'm just going to make one final point to that point there. NBA players are trained on playing 48-minute games. Games over here in FIBA and in the Olympics are 40-minute games.
Yes.
Those final 8 minutes, how many times have NBA players been able to kind of slog through the first 40 minutes, not be at their best, and then say, okay, let's turn it on and let's go win this last 8 minutes and win the game. You don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have the luxury of, so if you're playing poorly, if you have a poor half in a FIBA basketball game and get the other team confidence and they're shooting it well and you're not making shots, on the U.S. side, now that becomes so much more difficult. And then that's when you see human nature coming to play. Look, those guys know nothing. They have to come home with the gold. Anything less than the gold is a complete failure for a USA basketball team.
And we know this too. Like I don't want to get it to where like, oh man, everyone's panicked. The dream team, right? Whether or not they want anyone to know this, the dream team lost in a scrimmage to college players. Mm-hmm. Prior to the 1992 Olympics. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. All right, that team was Chris Webber and Bobby Hurley and all of those guys. Jamal Mashburn.
Grant Hill with that team?
Grant Hill, I believe, was probably on that team. So this isn't anything new. This is just the first time that we're seeing it. Mm-hmm. However, what I will say is the rest of the world, they're much improved.
No question.
Okay. That to me is what this is all about. There was a massive gap. The rest of the world now, you didn't go into the 92 Olympics and say who was the best player. Well, the best player now is outside of America now. Mm-hmm. That to me is the biggest difference. So this isn't anything new. I don't want to make too big of a deal about it, but when you started going to 92 and 96, do we have any question where the ball was going at the end of the game? These are things now we're asking. Like, we knew where that ball was going in 92. Okay. When Kobe Bryant played, was there any doubt where the ball was going?
Right.
You know, last Olympics, Kevin Durant was clear the best player. Okay. Now where's it going? Anthony Edwards said at the beginning of the training camp, he was the best player on the team.
Yeah. That's the one thing we haven't seen Kevin play with this group yet. Yes. It's going to be interesting to see when he comes in, because you feel because he hasn't been out there, I've almost forgotten that he was there, you know. But now he gets back in there healthy, you know, he has to be one.
Oh, he's a difference maker. I mean, Scott,
yes,
he is a difference maker, and you can play him at the 3 or the 4. See,
no question.
I've been watching Kevin Durant for over a decade playing international play. I don't know. If he's not the leading scorer of all time, he's got to be up there, right? As all-time scorer.
He is leading for you.
Him and Carmelo. He and Carmelo Anthony.
Okay, so when you put him in this fold, that's going to give them a different look. Okay, that's going to get at the 3 or the 4. I mean, and don't forget, guys, he's a 7-footer.
Yeah.
Okay, so if he's healthy and doing his thing with Anthony Davis and Bam and all those guys, he's going to give them a different look. You know, I don't expect him to defend like he once could, but he's still an elite top 10 player in the world. Okay, and he offensively, he's in everybody's top 5 as far as on the offensive end. Now he can still score that ball now. The best of them. We'll see how it turns out.
One thing that's interesting though is going back to BJ saying the dream team lost a scrimmage against college players. Chuck Daly, Coach K came out and said that Chuck Daly told him he threw the game to keep their megastars humble because he actually benched Michael Jordan and didn't make any adjustments, so on and so forth. So they didn't actually lose. It was strategy by the coach.
They threw the game. So you threw the game. You didn't have Michael Jordan in, but you had Clyde Drexler in. So that's throwing the game.
Hey, don't tell me. Ask Coach K.
No.
Ask Coach K.
Well,
I'm just the messenger.
So we could ask Coach K and we could ask Michael Jordan. They lost. They lost the game. I don't care how you lose. They lost the game. Okay. Right. And let me tell you something about this. One thing I'm going to tell you about Michael Jordan. I've never seen him throw a game. Right. And make it no doubt about it.
That's why he got benched.
Make no doubt about this. You don't ascend to that level of excellence. Talking about you got a master plan to win it. No, master plans is win the game and then figure out how to play better. And Coach Sir was there. So don't get me to get Coach Sir.
Get him on the show.
Don't get me what they talking about revisiting history when we have people there. The game wasn't thrown. It happens. Scott just detailed to you why it happens. You got a 48-minute game, and you got to condense this to a 40-minute game.
Yes.
Believe it or not, guys, these guys are not robots. Believe it or not, guys, losing, sitting on the bench is your greatest teacher. And you know what? This could be the lesson that the USA needs to get themselves playing. It's a different game. Losing is not a big deal. Everyone loses a game. Everyone misses a shot. I would love to tell you I made all the shots, Scott. I would love to tell you I won every game. Believe it or not, I didn't. Okay? So let's stop acting like the USA, the NBA never lost the game.
BJ's only regret is shots he didn't take.
Exactly. I didn't search none down. I didn't search every shot down, Mo. I didn't turn none down. So trust me when I tell you this. They lost. And there's nothing wrong with losing. Grant Hill, Chris Webber, Jamal Mashburn, those were really, really good players. And believe it or not, it takes time for these NBA players to get in shape. Okay? And when you're playing against younger athletic bodies in the offseason, believe it or not, I'm 9 times out of 10, probably those younger guys are going to win until you get yourself ready to play. Now, let's ask Larry Bird the following. Larry Bird, Jamal Mashburn got a story out there. When I confirmed it, when I saw Mash, he said, Larry Bird said, oh, okay, y'all won? Larry Bird with a bad back put it on them because that's the level of pride that these guys have. So that was a lesson. Chuck Daly, in his masterful way, said it was his fault. But everybody in that locker room, why they play so hard the next day? See, Chuck Daly was a master.
Yeah, Chuck was as good as it came.
That was on me, guys, because he knew the type of egos that he was dealing with. So he would never. So Chuck Daly knew the athlete, the pro athlete is different than the college athlete. Don't tell me you threw the game. Don't tell me that. No.
Whether he threw the game or not, they went on to win their 6 Olympic Games by an average of 51.5 points. We're going to see if this USA team can do the same thing.
I don't see
they can't do that.
I don't see that. They're not going to be able to do that. The world is the world is much better. The world is much better now. No question.
It's better now. It's much better. So, but that's nice for people to say this, but get those guys credit. But get those guys credit and get those players credit. But that's not how that works.
Well, we'll see how it works against Germany. I'm going to be in the building for that game. So if you guys who are listening, you see me, come and say what's up. It's great.
How many tickets you need for the game?
The game.
All right, man. As long as I got me a ticket.
Are they gonna bring you out at halftime or something? I figure there's some kind of ceremony with you involved there.
Hey,
whether it's before the tip or at halftime.
Man, you know what?
They're in your spot, Mo.
You know what?
Because you know what you could do? You could kick it off by saying, you know the vibes. And the fans would go wild and they'd be ready to play basketball.
See, I love that you say that because instead of me, they actually had a lady hosting a thing who's a Formula One presenter who clearly knew nothing about basketball and had clearly never been in a basketball arena before. And it didn't go down too well. So the atmosphere in there was lacking. USA Basketball, if you are listening to this, then you do need a host to be in the arena. I am available. I will be at the game. So you just make the call. Other than that, I'm just chilling, man. I'm hoping the listeners pull up. A whole bunch of you pulled up on Saturday's game and said, what's up? And it was great talking to a bunch of you guys. And shout out to the ones, especially in the Celtics jerseys. This all love. But it's good to see the people. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be just chilling. It's the off season, Scott. I'm just chilling.
You just chilling.
Okay.
I'm just chilling.
All right, Mo. How many tickets you need, Mo? You never answered the question. hey, Mo. Hey. You know the vibes.
I take as many as I can get. How about
that? Yeah, Mo.
You know the vibes.
And Mo, you can't take them out for wings. You can't take them out for wings.
I saw Jalen Brown in Summer League, and he said, "You know the vibes."
Exactly.
Hey Scott, let me just tell you this: if they rolling with me, they be loving the wings.
Rolling with you, they loving the wings, bro.
It's the only way to roll. Oh, come on, I'm doing that fancy chicken wings and fries. That's all it's about. Come on. But anyway, that's another episode. BJ, it's good to have you back. Scott, appreciate you as always. We'll be back tomorrow, I guess, with another one after we see what happens against the German side. And we'll break that one down for you and have a whole lot more on the way. So subscribe to the show, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And BJ, we've been letting Scott do the outro. So I'm going to give you a shot. I'm going to give you a shot at it now that you're back.
I got to do the outro?
You got to do the outro. Not the intro, the outro. Make sure you get the right one.
The outro. Oh, okay. Oh, the outro. Okay. What do you say, boys?
Oh, wow.
Hey, we got
120 episodes. And he's heard it and he doesn't remember. That's how long he is. Scott, show him how it's done.
Until next time, get buckets.
Oh.
Get buckets. I'll see you guys soon.